Nandam Paramasukadam Kevalam Jnanamurtim Dvandvatitam Gaganashadasham Tattvamasya Rilaksham Ekam Nityam Vimalamachalam Sarvadi Sakshi Bhutam Bhavatitam Trigunarahitam Sadgurum Dham Namami. Nithyanandam. Hi, this is Ma Nitya Oviananda. Today I wanted to expand on the story that I was speaking about the other day. I told you about my experience that I had at the place where Swamiji had his first enlightenment experience at the Coral Rock, Palavakundru, in Tiruvannamalai, on the hill of Arunachala. So one thing he mentioned also is it is the day in which Subramanya got enlightened. That very day that he had his experience was also the day marked for the enlightenment of Subramanya. And so many places will celebrate that very day. In addition to that, it's also the place where Devi went to do her tapas. It is the place where she did her tapas and became enlightened. So it's a very powerful place, and that temple is still right near there, near Swamiji's rock where he was sitting. So such a significant day and place. But he narrates what actually happened leading up to that day. Annamalai Swamigal was a disciple of Ramana Maharshi, and Swamiji would visit him often and considered him one of his gurus, one of his teachers. So it was around that time when he was teaching Swamiji about how you're not the body. It's a very important and one of the fundamental teachings. So basically he kept saying, and Swamiji was hearing him say, we are not the body, there's no pain or suffering for us. So this is what he was saying. And Swamiji heard these words. He got such a shock and sort of an understanding from the bottom of his stomach. So, like, you know how sometimes you get a click and some words grip you? That's how he felt when he heard those words. We are not the body. There's no pain or suffering for us. So, because of the way Swamiji was so intense about everything he did, that just burned in him, you know. He was in that pure listening and that intense space, and he was just cognizing what he said, and he wanted to have that experience. So it was just working intensely in him, inside of him, and he was just possessed by those words. So whatever he was doing physically or what, he was just hearing those words. So what did he do? He didn't sleep for some time. He kept thinking and thinking about that truth. So he wanted to experience it. So what does he do? He actually takes out a razor. These long razors that people used to use for shaving. And he took it and he cut his own thigh. The right thigh itself. He cut it and he wanted to experience that truth. That truth that we're not the body. He talks also, he refers to the Bhagavad Gita, how Krishna says the soul does not get destroyed, only the body is destroyed. And at that time, when Arjuna heard this, he was able to handle, killing the others as per Krishna's instructions and uphold the Dharma. But then when Swamiji heard the same words, he had to test it on himself and see. So he did that. And he talks about how he didn't have any other methodology or idea going beyond pain. So when he cut his thigh and the blood started gushing out, he was shaken. He was shaken by that. He said he's not really able to describe as there was being any pain. But he said there was a little bit of more, maybe a psychological thing when he saw the blood, a little bit of being shaken. But more than that, he said that, his mother was crying and people were, in the house there saying things to him because he lived with his extended family, and his grandmother was saying, that, what's the pronunciation, Petasyami, meaning he's done something again, that mad Swami. So he created such a ruckus, and he felt he was supposed to be in pain because of the ruckus that it caused. But he doesn't remember being in any pain. So they took him over to the hospital so they could stitch up his legs. And they were wondering, the doctors wondering why he did that. I think he something had like 13 stitches in this place on his leg, so it was a very deep cut. And so the doctor fixed him up, and he went. But it was such a strong cognition in him. He had the right cognition, so it landed very deeply on him that he cannot be hurt, he cannot have pain. But he should have tested it on his own atma, his own spirit, but not the body. That's the one thing he was saying about it. But he was sort of angry then with Annamalai Swamigal. And he scolded him, about that situation. But then, of course, the way Annamalai Swamigal was, he spoke to him and he gave him candy and all, after that, and told him not to worry. And then after that, he gave him another important lesson for him. And so it's, you can tell in life how things are meant to happen, because it might seem like, why did he do that? Why would Swamiji do that to himself? And why would that story be told? And, you would wonder what was the exchange, right? If let's say some kid listened to you and then they went and hurt themselves like that. Most people might be worried and have some fear or, oh my God, I'm to blame, some guilt. No, not at all, because this was all meant to be. So Annamalai Swamigal gives another technique to him because of this. After he consoled him, of course, and spoke to him and whatever the exchange was, giving him candy, he also gave this last word to Swamiji. He said, find out who is having that feeling that you have pain or suffering. Whenever you have time, sit down and see where your thoughts are coming from and ask, who am I? He asked me who I was. I replied, I was Rajashekar, and my grandfather was a big landlord. He said, all right, ask yourself, who is Rajashekar? Who says that name? And Swamiji's like, he expresses how he felt then it was initiation for him. It became such a strong truth inside him. So whenever he found time, he would sit and contemplate, who is having pain in me? He would try to analyze inside of me, where is that I rising, that idea of I, where is that coming from? So he, for some time, many months, he had that thought in his head. And he kept on contemplating that for a long time. And that whole incident that happened, it led up to his experience at the Enlightenment Rock, the experience that happened to him. I think it was over a year. He was saying how he sometimes would really serious and passionately think about that, and other times, he just continuously had that thought in his head. He had such a passion about it, and it was a great technique because that passion for that thought, makes all the other needless things disappear from the inside, of the system. So that incident happened. And then, so it was probably a year and a half later. So he was in between 11 and 12. And as usual, he went to sit on that rock. And he talks about how he just casually went. It's not like he chose a time or this, that, this. He would just usually sit here and there around that area. But somehow that day, from the place of here and there he would sit, he decided to sit on one rock, which has become our Tirtha Kshetra, that place where I described how I had an interesting experience and how I felt that energy of Swamiji there in that place. So we worship that place because it's such a sacred place now to us and to all the disciples of Swamiji. So he would spend time in that area because of Devi became enlightened there. And he decided to sit there. So he wasn't even doing some serious meditation, he says. The whole ambience was very calm. And it was, just kind of near that time when the sun's setting. And he just closed his eyes. And the intensity of his yearning started to take over. Because he was very calm. The ambience was calm and beautiful at the time of day and the place. And he just decided to close his eyes only. And he had that deep yearning, and it started to take over him. The intensity to realize himself, his true nature, it started to possess him and take him over. And, you understand, at least you and I understand a lot about how fear and greed takes us over. Swamiji tells, when fear and greed, they take you over, you have a panic attack. You just do things you feel guilty about later. A lot of times, those emotions, when they hit us, we do some things, that we might regret. Because we don't know what else to do with those emotions, because the intensity of those emotions, if you're in a fear or greed, your whole system is overtaken by that. So it's very difficult to come out of that experience. It takes some time to come down and settle from it. So in that way, even more intensely, that sincere seeking overpowered him. He just felt, what is it that I'm seeking? Who is the me who's seeking? Who is the me who is deeply disconnected about everything I see or hear, he said. Who is it feeling deeply disconnected even about my own existence, he was saying. So looking to all that discontentment, he's calling it, that is that seeking. So it was just a strong, completely taking over of him, that suffocating feeling. So he was talking how, again, reiterating the time, that nice calm time of night between the sunset and the moonrise. It's still light out, but it's got that sort of mystical quality. I love that time of day. So he's sitting there and he's describing that feeling of calmness that he was getting all of a sudden. Then, it wasn't a step-by-step experience, he said. It's just something opened up in him. He was just saying, let's say you're trying to connect two pipes. He gave this example, and you're struggling to connect those pipes. And the water comes from the other side of the pipe. Suddenly the pipes are connected. So you're pushing it together, and finally it's working, and the water's coming out the other side, just like that. He was sitting and closing his eyes. And he was saying, I could experience life being alive, being present in everything, he was saying. With my eyes closed, I could see literally all the sides, 360 degrees horizontally, 360 degrees vertically. He said, not only was I able to see one side, the Pavalakundru temple, in front of me the hill, the other side the main temple, Arunachaleshwar temple, but every plant, stone, the sky above him, the rock below him, he could remember. And even then when he was describing it, he says, I'm not even remembering it now, I'm literally reliving it. He was able to see the whole at a time. See, without even turning his head or opening his eyes, he was able to see all of that. He realized that, he said, I realized that I was one with the whole of existence, and everything was I. It was as if the tree in front of me became my bone, and the sky above became my nerves. So when he understood, not only was he able to see, but he felt that experience. He said, I experienced that the whole thing is me. I was alive. How powerfully alive you are inside your skin. If someone touches you, you know it. How alive you are inside your skin. With that same depth of life, of being alive, I felt with everything. The stone, plants, hill, temple, with everything, he was saying. So how amazing. I mean, just the story of him telling his experience, that powerful thing he was saying. First he said, I was able to 360 degrees. Then the next moment, he says, the next moment he said, I realized that not only I am able to see, but I'm able to experience all of it as me. And I didn't feel vulnerable, he said. I felt powerful, so powerful. I know that I am oneness, the existence. There is no inner, no outer. There's no moving, unmoving. The smallest movements of these plants is my movement, and the highest stillness in the center of the cosmos is my stillness. What you call near, what you call far off, those concepts are lost. What you call as inside you, outside you, those ideas are forgotten. This lasted, he said, for 1.5 hours. It was not merely a visualization or anything. He saw it this way. So can you imagine? That was his very first experience. And how deep and beautiful and profound that is. And something we can all understand, that we also can experience that. He tells us. So we just need to keep holding on, understanding that we can have those experiences, and we can have that big understanding with life and with the cosmos and why we're here. And having Swamiji in our life as our guru, as an example, a living example of how to live, how to be, how to think and move and feel. We just need to think, what would Swamiji do? Because he understands life as it is, as the reality. He understands existence in the cosmos. And when we invite him, when we have that relationship with him, that he's our guru, we're his disciple, and he can guide us. There's so many things he can do for us and help clearing away any of our baggage and help giving us these great understandings and be that example, how we are Sadashiva and how we can also have that experience. The more we expose ourselves to that and around him, we understand how further and further we can get. And it can happen in a second, actually. It can just happen right now. So it's just a matter of letting go and trusting him and being in that oneness space. So I hope you enjoyed today's story. I will share more beautiful information and stories from Swamiji's life. My favorite topic. So thanks again, and Nithyananda.